Greetings. I'm Dick Hutchinson. Dr. Tom Rim and I are partners in this initiative. Please let me pull up my slides. My purpose here is to explain our wicked problem approach and how we will use it in the international global solutions and outreach programs. Our overall goal is to empower and enable the world's young people to successfully overcome global warming. If you are young or have children or grandchildren, please take what we have to say personally on their behalf, because it is of concern for the young that bring us here today. I'll start with the wicked problem approach. We begin the wicked problem approach by brainstorming a problem diagram. Participants use the diagram to orient and guide the problem-solving effort. The study goals at the top state what the problem-solving effort is to accomplish. The end state goals are the broader benefits gained by accomplishing the study goals. Problem elements are gaps, barriers, and questions that must be addressed to meet the study goals. We divide these into technical, economic, and social political elements. Solution work units are the efforts required to overcome the problem elements. These work units must be executable tasks for engineers and other specialists. We often prepare problem diagrams in simpler format as long as the above three tiers and content are maintained. Here we show the steps and teams used to carry out the wicked problem approach. Separate teams will analyze all solution work units simultaneously. The evaluation team then evaluates each option on technical, economic, and social political factors. An integration team combines the options into a system considering the evaluation results. The process is repeated until a satisfactory system is found. Thus, this is an iterative approach. The final satisfactory system must be technically effective and feasible, economically supportable, and socially, politically acceptable, and meet the study goals, at which point the problem is solved. Now let's turn to the global warming problem. Here we face a number of constraints. We must accept that the Earth is one integrated system with one part affecting many others. For example, Arctic warming melts sea ice and allows more solar energy to be trapped by the open water, resulting in further warming. Also, the Earth is a physical entity that can only respond in accordance with the laws of nature, ignoring our desires and even our survival. Thus, we must solve global warming at the scale of Earth and on Earth's physical terms. However, we humans must be able to survive the solution. We must find practical solutions that we can implement while coping with climate change impacts. Further, global warming is a wicked problem with a mix of technical, economic, and social political factors tangled together. These problems require special approaches, as normal step-by-step methods do not work. Solving this most complex and threatening problem ever faced will require tremendous energy, boldness, drive, and hard work. These realities cannot be ignored. We have to deal with all of them together in order to successfully overcome global warming. So here's our strategy. Within the Global Solutions Program, we will have three people's projects. We call them people's projects because the people must be involved and everyone will be impacted by the solutions. The first project will evaluate available options to halt the net release of CO2 and cope with unavoidable climate change impacts. It will be conducted by national teams. The second project will evaluate available options to stabilize and adjust the Earth's energy balance to halt warming and return to acceptable conditions, and to address ocean acidifications and other problems such as methane release. It will be conducted by international teams, each focusing on different options. The third project will evaluate options currently in R&D to meet the goals of projects 1 and 2. It will also be conducted by international teams, each focusing on different R&D options. The outreach program will provide engineering support to states, local communities, and industries that are taking action on climate change, thus enhancing their vital efforts. The global solutions and outreach programs will be closely linked to exchange results, good ideas, and social political evaluations. To cope with this wicked problem, we will use the proven wicked problem approach that I just described. Lastly, we will hire and train young engineers, economists, social political experts, and other specialists in their 20s and 30s to lead and execute the global solutions and outreach programs. Why so? Well, they have the requisite energy, boldness, and self-interest drive necessary to do the job, and they will be here to implement the solutions. Also, they are not addicted to business as usual. We propose that the U.S. initiates the Global Solutions and Outreach Program first, and then invite other nations to join the work by setting up their own Global Solutions and Outreach programs. Let's now turn to our flow diagrams to see how the Global Solutions and Outreach programs will actually work using the wicked problem approach. Here is a flow diagram for People's Project 1 for Nation A by way of example. This project will be executed by national teams in Nation A. Engineering analysis teams will analyze all available options to halt CO2 and to cope with climate change impacts. Separate engineering teams will analyze each type or group of options, such as wind and solar energy. Here we show 3 teams. There will be dozens of options requiring evaluations. We have identified 130 options to date for the 3 People's projects. All options will be investigated simultaneously. These engineering assessments include feasibility, effectiveness in meeting project goals, environmental impacts, scale and timing to implement, capital and yearly costs, net energy, human and natural resource requirements, and availability. After the initial analysis, the options will be evaluated and integrated into the nation's action plan. Successful action plans must be technically feasible and effective, economically supportable, and socially, politically acceptable. If the initial action plan does not achieve these requirements, the process is repeated until a satisfactory action plan is obtained for Nation A. Other nations will go through this same process with their global solutions and outreach programs. Now, let's see how the other 2 People's projects and the outreach program will all work together. Here we show People's Project 1 in a simplified way with its national teams. People's Project 2 uses international teams to evaluate available options to stabilize and adjust the Earth's energy balance and address ocean acidification. Nation A and all other nations will participate in evaluating options on the national teams. In this way, the best minds from around the globe will work together in evaluating these different options. The results from People's Project 2 will feed back to each nation, where the options will be evaluated and integrated into their national action plan. People's Project 3 will evaluate new technologies currently in R&D to meet Project 1 and 2 goals. Again, international teams will be used with all nations working together to evaluate new technology options. Results will again go back to each nation for evaluation and integration. The outreach program is performed by national teams to provide engineering support to ongoing climate efforts. An active link between the nation's outreach program and its Project 1 will exchange results, good ideas, social political evaluations of options, and pilot testing. A resulting satisfactory national action plan for Nation A will thus integrate the results from People's Project 1, 2, and 3, and from the outreach program, thus achieving broad national and international input. The nation's satisfactory action plan must be technically feasible and effective, economically supportable, and socially politically acceptable. On this diagram, we show how the national action plans will then be evaluated and integrated into regional action plans, such as for North America and Asia. The regional plans will include estimates of regional net CO2 release and contributions to stabilizing and adjusting the Earth's energy balance, to address ocean acidification, and to coping with climate change impacts. The plans will also include total regional costs, economic sustainability, and social political acceptability. International teams from the nations within the region will perform the evaluation and integration. All the regional action plans will then be evaluated and integrated into a global action plan. The global plan will include estimates of global net CO2 release, global contributions to stabilizing and adjusting the Earth's energy balance, and to addressing ocean acidification, and to coping with climate change impacts. International teams from the nations within each region will perform this global evaluations and integration. A successful global action plan must be successful on Earth's terms to successfully halt net CO2 release, stabilize and adjust the Earth's energy balance, and address ocean acidification. It must also be economically supportable and socially politically acceptable, and have global ability to cope with climate change impacts. If the global action plan does not initially meet these goals, then each nation will revise their action plans and the process repeated until a satisfactory global action plan is arrived at. This iterative approach will keep each nation in charge of its own action plan while allowing nations to determine if their total efforts will successfully overcome global warming at the scale of Earth. I think you can appreciate that the international global solution and outreach programs require a great deal of work. That is why it will take a small army of engineers, economists, socio-political experts, and other specialists. We estimate that 380 full-time and approximately 3,000 part-time participants will be needed in the US and cost the US $350 million over 3 years. Other nations will need to support their own global solutions and outreach programs. The end result of these international global solutions and outreach programs will be, first, practical national, regional, and global action plans to guide future efforts that will actually solve global warming, and engineering support to states and local communities and industries to enhance their vital ongoing climate work. As I mentioned before, our overarching goal is to empower and enable the young to lead and accomplish these efforts in their own self-interest. We will empower the young by securing the funds needed to hire and pay them within the US. We will enable them by training them to use the wicked problem approach, orienting them on program plans, and mentoring and assisting them through the program startup year with our donated time. Even more, these young people, through their intense work, will become vital national resources to implement the action plans. The best way to understand and overcome a problem is to work on it. I hope that you now have a better understanding of how the Global Solutions and Action Outreach programs will be accomplished and how the national and international parts will all work together. Thank you.